hike. Okay.
Just get my gear.
Are we going on a hike? What's everybody's desires? Up, down, indifferent?
Packing them in. So
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Your hike is going to be a lot of downhill coming back.
It'll be a hell of a lot of uphill going up and a lot of downhill coming. There are about 12 pastures that these cows will rotate through. They'll be here for about 100 days. In any pasture, they will be there no longer than 15 days to 18 days. I'd like you to think about that. Out of 365 days, they're grazed for 15 days out of the year, and that's it. The rest of the time, deer, wildlife have access to it. And so what you're looking at down here is going to be grazed, but it'll, for 340 days of the year, it's going to look like what you're seeing in front of you. Until the cows come in, then it's going to be a little flat, but then it grows fast. Yo. Well, I kind of like to have 50 cows simply because I would much rather have them here for a larger number for a shorter period of time. It's a lot better for grass. Are you ready for a little plant physiology here?
yes. Yes.
Let me work kind of native here. This is blue bunch wheatgrass, or I mean western wheatgrass. When a plant begins growth from right here, the storage that makes that growth is in the root system down here. Carbohydrates that are stored in the root system and the root crowns. And so in the spring, that plant has to produce leaves, the initial leaves, out of stored carbohydrates. And so we have a term in range management that is called range readiness.
What's that?
We use these real difficult terms. It's ready for grazing after a certain period of time. Well, that's based on carbohydrate reserves. Let me kind of narrow things down here a little bit. Studies have shown with crested wheatgrass and most of the wheatgrasses that once a plant has 4 to 5 leaves, now I've picked a bad example here because there's a bunch of leaves down here, but once a plant has produced 4 or 5 leaves, there's enough photosynthetic surface to conduct photosynthesis, store carbohydrates back in the root system to replenish what was used to produce those first 5 leaves, or all that stuff. And then you can graze it off because the roots have been reserved, or have been replenished.
And they'll grow new ones.
And they'll grow new ones. And so that's what, every grazing system has to be based on plant physiology. It has to be based on the growth of that thing right there. And so when the first pasture we grazed that we'll walk back through, you'll say, ooh, God, a lot of cow shit here and it looks pretty tough. Well, the fact is there's a lot of soil moisture. Those plants have been grazed. They're going to make regrowth, and they're going to have 340 days of the year to recuperate and restore themselves. That pasture was grazed first this year. It won't be grazed until last next year. So it'll go through a whole growth cycle next year. It'll really go through the rest of this year's growth cycle, plus next spring's growth cycle. The pastures that I worry the most about are mid-season. When you get to the point that there's very little soil moisture, you've got all this growth like this, there's no moisture in the ground, the cows eat it off. What's the plant try to do? Hey, you gotta make new leaves. Yep, no moisture. So I suck all the moisture out of there trying to make new leaves. I get 1 or 2 leaves built, and I can't make any more. And so you haven't replaced the carbohydrates that have been used to produce those 2 or 3 leaves. So it isn't quite as simple as the first one grazed as the last one grazed next year. What I try to really pay attention to is those middle season pastures and make sure that I never hit that same middle season pasture middle season the next year. And that's an easy one to think about doing because you start east to west and the next year you go west to east. Well, what happens? What's in the middle gets what's in the middle every year. Yeah. Anyway.
So
basic physiology 101. I got a D in plant physiology, by the way.